What's up, everyone? Got a video here. We're gonna make this video to kind of document the process that we're going through with this car, where we're at with it. This is round two. Sorry, I forget I have this on. This is round two. We've already replaced this engine, and then it blew up 205 miles later. Not my fault. We'll get into that later. And now we're putting the original engine that we took out, rebuilt back in it to replace the one that we replaced it with, that only got 205 miles out of it. So just follow me. I know it's a bit to chew on, but you'll catch on. And this video is mainly to have a conversation about it and help somebody not have to go through this, and a little bit of proof and documentation of where I'm at and what I've done about it. Anyways, keep up here. So there's the car, which you're looking at. It's a 2010 Audi A5 Quattro 5-speed manual coupe. And it's got a new clutch in it, and we did a bunch of other stuff, motor mounts and everything else. The original engine that was in it was right here. This was the original engine. And the original timing cover that went here needs to go on, obviously, but we'll get into that. I'll get to that later. The point is, this was the original engine that was in the car. This engine had bad valves. This is a direct port fuel injected 2.0 turbo motor, Audi Volkswagen motor. And direct port fuel injection is good if you're going to do a intake cleaning every 30,000 miles. And if not, you build up carbon really bad. So this motor had 144,000 miles on it without ever having a carbon intake cleaning done. And it appeared to have bad piston rings because it was blowing heavy smoke out of the exhaust. But really, it wasn't bad piston rings. It was dirty intake ports in this engine blowing smoke out. Anyways, the motor came out under the assumption that it had bad piston rings. The owner bought that engine, and the owner buys this engine. These engines normally go for like $3,500. And the owner bought that engine for $2,000. He got it cheaper because it was a car that had been hit in the front end. And when the car was hit in the front end, it was also damaged. See if you can see it right there. You see that chunk right there missing? So it took a hit right there, and that's the bolt that the bottom bracket, the bottom bolt for the bracket for where the starter goes, and the bracket for the motor mount. So yeah, it took the hit right there, and it had also taken the hit in the timing cover up front. So because it took a hit in the timing cover up front, he didn't buy the engine and say, open it up, Danny, you know, go through it, make sure it's good, pull the timing covers off, let's reseal it, let's put new gaskets on it. He didn't say all that. He just wanted me to take one out, put another one in, that's it. And I mean, I do what I'm paid to do. You know, if you're gonna pay me more, I'll strip it apart, I'll put on new gaskets on it, I'll double check everything. If we would have went that route, I would have most likely found the problem. I would have took the covers off, rotated the engine, threw it on the engine stand the way it is prior to what happening. And what happened was this. Yeah, the engine grenaded because the oil pump shaft. This is the oil pump shaft. It runs off of the lower timing chain. And if you try to spin this, you can't. It's locked up. It's very hard to turn. And this should just free spin in my hand easily. Easily free spin. and it's seized. So when it took a hit, this is the front of the engine, right? When it took a hit, this must have been affected in the impact, because this engine was in a car that was hitting the front and damaged the free play in the shaft here, causing the oil pump to seize. And he buys the engine, oh, it has a warranty, who cares, just put it in, right? So I do as I'm told, I just put it in. I do a good job put it in, but I put it in. So the engine is out of oil, not getting oil because the oil pump seized, even though it has oil in it. It's a turbo engine. It doesn't like that. It runs hot. So he's driving and out of nowhere, boom, explodes. And when I say explodes, I mean check this out, y'all. Check this out. That's what a rod is supposed to look like. Look what that rod looks like. This one, I had to just cut it off. It wouldn't come out. I had to cut it off. It was jammed in there. The motor was completely locked. So yeah, not good, huh? Look at this piston. That's what's left of that one. This was probably the healthiest one that came out of there. It actually unbolted and came out. This is the worst one, look. This is what's left of the piston that exploded. Look at that. That's what's left of it. That is supposed to be that. That's what's left of it. Look at the bearings. Definitely starved of oil. So the whole motor had to come apart, right? I had just put this motor in. If you go to my channel, you see the videos. It was around the 7th of May, according to what I wrote on the back of that rear main seal that was on the back of this motor. Here's the motor itself. Well, before I show you the motor, I inspected everything. I mean, I took the water pump apart. I pulled the head. Let me show you the head. Actually, let me show you this crank before I show you the head. This is the rod that wouldn't come off that I had to cut with a grinder to get off. The bolts were too damaged to come off. All the other ones came off, but look at this. Look at this, man. I'm talking about done. Just completely done. This crank took all kind of abuse. The crank ain't good, none of it is good. This is all scrap. I take it apart simply to inspect because I want to know what happened, right? I'm the one that took the engine out. So I want to confirm what happened. Here's your head gasket. And here's the cylinder head. Hold on. Let me try to get a flashlight on this. Look at that cylinder, huh? Look at that one. Look at that one. Look at that one. Can you tell which cylinder was the first one to explode? Yeah, I mean, look, you see the spark plug tip? That's supposed to look like that. So yeah, those valves ain't no good. This head, I would say, is no good. That seems to be cylinder number 3. That is most likely the piston that exploded in cylinder number 3. We're missing a rod, as y'all can see, right? No, hold on. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, the one we cut off. All right, that's what threw me off. All right, so there's the 4 rods. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 pistons, right? We have a bunch of shrapnel everywhere, right? Here's your water pump. I opened it up to make sure. This is just a plastic housing. This is your water pump propeller. It's belt driven. That's your belt. It bolts on the side of the block here. Look at the hole on the side of the block. I'm talking about massive hole. That hole right here should not be here. This hole back here should not be here. I mean, massive hole there and there. So this block is garbage, and that's the numbers from the junkyard motor that they write on it. Let me come over here and show you this side of the engine block. Massive hole there. And a massive hole there. Zoom in on it. So when he bought the motor, it had already taken a hit that took a chunk off of that there, right? And the front timing cover had taken a hit also. It's hot, but I'm gonna turn the fan off just so y'all could hear me better. So that's the motor completely stripped down. There's the motor. The bottom end is scrap. The crank is scrap. The head is scrap. I mean, I don't even trust that water pump, really, to be honest with you. I wouldn't reuse any of this. It's all scrap. It's all in the scrap pile. Scrap, scrap, scrap. I guess those cams might be good. That would pretty much be about it. So next we're going to move on to talk about this motor. This is the motor that was originally in the vehicle. And we took everything that was off that motor that was good: intake manifold, oil filter, housing bracket, motor mount brackets, everything, literally all the hoses, everything, and attached them to that motor, because obviously that motor was completely rebuilt. It has new pistons, new rods, billet pistons, you know, performance rods. I mean, everything's been done. The head was sent off to the machine shop, you name it. Dropping the phone here. I got slippery hands with these gloves. So yeah, everything is properly installed. You can see everything where the engine block on that one broke over here on this side. Water pump, everything installed. Oil filter housing. This got all new seals, motor mount brackets, intake manifold. Got the head. You can see the head is brand new, fresh out of the oven, like they say. Let me show you the turbo side over here. See if I can manage to hold this with my knee so it doesn't spin around while I show you guys. So there's your head. Your bottom end was all obviously done and cleaned up. We put a performance oil line on here with a heat sleeve, crimped line on there. That'll hold up nice. And then if you see down, everything has been machined. Everything is like a baby's bottom, squeaky clean in there. So yeah, we did all the gaskets, rebuilt this thing. It's good to go. This is the original motor. He shouldn't have a problem with it. Sealed up the bottom end, you know. Put a brand new rear main seal on the back of this one also, just to be safe, right? Attached everything, ready to drop it back in the hole over there. The last thing I was doing before I did is we have a downpipe for the turbo aftermarket, right? We have an aftermarket front mount intercooler, and we've upgraded the turbo too. But being that that engine blew up, we wanted to have peace of mind that nothing got into the turbo, contaminated it, anything like that. So I disconnected the turbo. See if I can hold this up to where you can see. To look inside there. And spin the propeller, make sure there's no play, everything looks good. It's hard to hold it up with one hand and record with the other. But yeah, so now we'll put a new gasket on it, put the hot pipe on it, install the turbo on the engine. I gotta install that bracket and that starter onto the engine. We got new motor mounts, obviously. We got a performance stage 2 clutch. We got the engine bay, the frame wiped down, everything nice and clean. Like I said, I got this side of the engine ready. I just wanted to double check the turbo. I'll be putting the turbo on. I'll turn the engine hoist around, get her lined up. Once I got it close enough, I'll do the starter and the starter bracket, because I like to run the starter wires, and I need to have it close enough for the starter wires to reach. It's real tight fit in there with that motor mount bracket. I'll plug the starter wires, make sure that's all connected, the connector and the plug. I think the connector was damaged too, so I might be needing to get a connector for that if I remember correctly. That's the holdup on it, but yeah, I wanna go ahead and get this plugged back in here. I'm gonna try to see what I do about getting a new plastic electrical connector for the starter connector, and also we need a connector for this. I forget the name of this thing. It's like it's for the fuel system. It's like a fuel pump auxiliary thing, and that's the little connector for it. There's one up here on this engine that I can use. I can screw it off of that one and put it on this one. I was going to do that once the engine is installed, because you run the risk of something happening to it in the process of installing it. So that's something that could easily be done once the motor is bolted in and the engine hoist is separated from the engine. So in the meantime, before I can separate the engine and set it in place, I need to figure out the starter. Here is my starter cable, right? Yeah. That's the plug for it. Pretty nasty, huh? It's a real tight fit. It was brittle. You stick a flathead in these, and there's a system to the madness. There's a way you get them out. You stick the flathead in here and pry up, and it lifts the plastic tab in here up, and then it slides out. I know how to unplug these properly, but this one, it just runs so hot under the turbo, the plastic gets brittle, and when I went to do it to this one, it just bloop, snapped off. And so now we're gonna have to address that. I'll show you on this. See here? This is what it should look like. And you'll stick the flathead in here and bend up, leverage up, and then that lifts that tab in there up. That's the way you disconnect those. And I know how to properly do it. It's just that one runs under the turbo. It gets super duper hot in there. The plastic was fragile, it broke. So we're gonna need to get that. And that's something you wanna plug in before you drop the engine in place. It's really uncomfortable to get to after the fact. So we're kind of at a standstill with that. I mean, I could turn the engine around and line it up. I can put I really could put the turbo on, I guess, if I wanted to. That's probably what I'll work on tonight. I'll put the turbo on tonight. I'll get with him tomorrow on that little pigtail connector. It's just a matter of cutting one off of another car and going from there. I'll send some pictures to him. I'll give him a phone call and we'll decide what we're gonna do about that connector. I could get Ghetto Fabulous and zip tie it in there to where it holds, right? It's a single wire. This thing won't focus. It's one thick single wire going into the plug, but the plug will wiggle itself out is what I'm concerned about it, because it's not gonna be locked in. So I would have to zip tie the living crap out of it. It's a tight area to even want to get into and have to zip tie. I really don't want to do that. I really want to have the right plug. It's just a matter of getting the plug. It's not an easy plug to get, but unless you get lucky at the junkyard. Anyways, I'm tired. It's late. I'm gonna finish messing with that turbo. I'm gonna try to get that turbo bolted up here. I'm gonna call it a night, and I'm gonna let y'all go. We'll do another video of this thing probably in the car, up and running, blah blah blah. This should be the last time this car ever needs this engine pulled out. I mean, as long as he's nice to it. It's new everything, you know. It's new bearings, it's new rods, new pistons, new head gasket. I mean, everything's new. So, you know, you want to use braking oil, you want to be nice to it. You want to let everything kind of give it it's at least for the first 500 to 1,000 miles, I would say be very nice to the motor. It's like when you got a new pair of boots, y'all. You ever had a brand new pair of leather shoes? They're not the best to walk in at first, and then after a while you break them in, get a little miles on them, and the leather is nice and soft, and they feel like tennis shoes after a minute. But you know, until he breaks this in, if he's nice to it, he should be good. Some people can't control the urge. They get in it, they just want to feel it, they can't wait, and they want to go and hit it with just one time, and then something shifts, something moves a tiny little bit, and that creates a problem, and now the engine's not going to last forever like it would have. So that being said, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they respect the break-in period, and this engine never needs to get pulled again. There's no need why this engine should ever have to come out again, as long as the break-in period is respected on it. It sucks that it had to be done again, but hey, the good news about it is that engine had a warranty. He got his money back for that engine, and then the money that they gave him back for that engine, he put into this, buying all the internals for this engine and rebuilding the original engine. So now the original engine came out to put that one in it because it was smoking out of the pipe, gray smoke. And then that one goes in and blows up because it was you know, you get what you pay for. It was a backdoor special, whatever you want to call it, in the sense that it had come out of a car that had been hit. That engine, like I said, is normally $3,500. He got it for $2,000. But anyways, he took a chance on it. That's a win. That's a you know, sometimes you take that chance and you win. Sometimes you take that chance and you lose. This time he lost, and it's unfortunate. But that's a bunch of scrap. All this is a bunch of scrap now. Scrap everywhere, going in the scrap pile. That'll come off my engine stand and get scrapped. I got another engine over here I need to put back on it that I'm actually gonna be rebuilding, sending that head off to the machine shop and rebuilding it and putting that back together. So that'll go on my engine stand. Get that piece of scrap off of there. And that came out. The original engine had come out for that engine. Now the original engine got the love it deserved. It got the full rebuild it deserved. And now it is going to mosquitoes. And now it is going to go back in its original engine, like if it had 0 miles. This is like 0 miles on this engine, y'all. So the car has 144,000 miles on it. And now it doesn't. It's like it has 0 miles, and the clutch is brand new. So the clutch has 0 miles, and it's a stage 2 clutch from Center Force. So, Clutch Masters. Did I say Center Force? I meant to say Clutch Masters. Made in America since 2002, 17 years ago. Clutch Masters. We threw up a couple decals. I put them up there. If he don't like it, he can take them off. But they're low key. It's not like they're on his back bumper or anything. Just under the hood. So anyways, you got a clutch in there. These clutches ain't the easiest to put on. You got to pop the shaft out that runs across behind that plate. And then it all comes out together. Separate it, attach the new clutch, put it in, put the shaft back in it, blah, blah, blah. To disconnect the shaft, sounds easy, right? Just take the shaft out. You got to take a lot of your suspension components apart over there, CV axle and all that, upper control arms and tie rod links and all that to be able to get that shaft out. And then it's still kind of tight to get out. But it's a Quattro, and it's fun once it's put together. Like I said, we clean. If you're going to work on it, make it look like you worked on it. So all this is clean, ready to go. The transmission was clobbered in oil, grease, transmission fluid. It's beautiful again. This thing will run. The last thing I want to point out is not only are we double checking and putting a new gasket on the hot pipe, but the turbo is brand new. This is a brand new turbo. Well, it was new just a little bit ago with the old engine, but yeah, we got some new, really high quality hydraulic hoses for it. Nothing cheap, nothing flimsy, all steel braided turbo lines. We inspected everything, looks good in there. We're gonna put the new gasket on. We're gonna put the downpipe on it. On the other side of the engine block, we got that other oil line that is got the heat shield on it and all that. So it's gonna be good to go. My only fear in this car would be that the starter's not being replaced. Still gonna have its original starter. The starter will have 144,000 miles on it. The water pump won't. Nothing else in the engine will. Just the starter. And that starter's a bit of a booger to replace. I don't want to be the guy that gets called to have to replace it when it does go. And I don't want to be the guy that gets talked about because I put it back in that car with that pigtail broken. That pigtail has already been under heat and abuse for 144,000 miles underneath that turbo manifold. It was very brittle. You barely touched it and it snapped. And to have to put it back in there with zip ties would be super duper ghetto. But you do what the customer says. So we'll leave it up to him to decide, is that what I'm gonna do? Or is he gonna bring me a new pigtail that I could solder into that wire and have a nice clip, snap, lock pigtail on that starter that will lock into place. If it was me, I would not only make it lock into place, I would put a little bit I have some left over, and that's what I plan to do, some of that heat insulator. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This stuff right here. It's like a heat shield. And he had bought some, and I have a little left over, and I could cut a piece of this, not off of this one, but cut a piece of what I have left and put it over that pigtail so that plastic will be protected. So the plastic right here will have that heat shield sleeve over it. Should be able to squeeze right over it, and that'll help protect it a little bit since it has to sit directly underneath that hot turbo. So hopefully we replace that, and in a perfect world where money grew on trees, he would buy a starter. That's not a cheap starter. If you're going to buy an OEM starter, a real Bosch starter, it's like a $350 starter. It's pretty pricey. It's a big deal to replace a starter on this car if you want to do it right and do OEM. They got cheapies made in China on eBay. You get what you pay for. I really don't suggest him buying a cheap one. I would rather he keep that one than put a cheap one on it. He either buys a good one or leaves that one, is my opinion on it. And he doesn't have the money to buy a good one now. It would be ideal because he wouldn't be paying any labor, or the future owner, who, if he decides to sell it, wouldn't be paying any labor. But like I said, we do what we can. Everything else is great on the car. That is honestly the only thing that would concern me later down the line. I don't see anything else that would be a concern later down the line. All the expensive stuff, clutch, internals on the engine, everything is like 0 miles. As long as the break-in period is respected, this engine should be ready to drive from here to California and back, and not have an oil pump that's going to explode. So yeah, anyways, I just wanted to document. Like I said, I won't blab too much. I think I've already blabbed enough. I think the blabbing was necessary to kind of cover my butt and document the history of what's happening, why it's happening, and what we're doing about it. So thanks for watching. If you are thinking, I'll close in saying this, if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a cheap engine from the junkyard, if you're looking for an engine for your car, oh, it doesn't matter if it came out of a car that was hit in the front, or if the engine was a little chipped or cracked. It does matter. I've ran into this with other engines before. You want an engine that looks like it was never in a car that was hit, like it wasn't dropped off of the forklift or banged into in a warehouse somewhere. You want an engine that hasn't been hit at all, that shows no signs of being dropped, hit in any way, shape, or form. And obviously the warranty. Like I said, he got his money back, no harm, no foul, but he's losing money on labor. He ain't getting his labor money back, you know? And that's what sucks about it. I do wish it wouldn't have had to be that way for him, but you know, I can't shoot myself in the foot either. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I would have charged somebody else a whole lot more than what I'm charging him, but he's a good friend that I actually appreciate. So I took it a little easy on him. And either way, it's just a bad situation. I have to pay for labor twice. Like, he got 205 miles and boom, and it wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. It was the motor's fault. The motor had been hit. And unless you opened it and checked it before we put it in, who would have known, right? We're just saying it has a warranty, drop it in, and there you go. So anyways, lesson learned for everyone else out there, so you don't have to go through this. Don't buy engines that have been hit. Don't look for the cheapest engine. If your engine normally costs $3,500 and you're only paying $2,000 for it, guess what? There's probably a reason why that one's only worth $2,000. Just saying, you know? I could understand engine normally costs $3,500 and you got one for $3,000. $500 off. I'd take a chance on that. Something, you know, there's a reason why. Yeah, probably because it's priced a little lower. He's a little more motivated to sell. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad engine. But when you're looking at an engine that's $1,500 cheaper than the market value, not $500, $1,500, that means the person selling it probably knows it's very highly something could be wrong with that engine. They did the right thing. Like I said, they warranted it, no questions asked. They're not even asking for this engine returned. If they ever did question or ask anything, he would have this video to show proof of what happened. To anybody watching now, anybody watching in the future, lesson learned for everyone else. God bless y'all. There'll be another video to follow this video on the original engine, going back in, fully rebuilt, 0 miles, first startup, running good and strong. And I'm not happy. I just, here we are in the 3rd week of June. And I did that here recently around the 7th of May. So this was definitely my COVID, China virus, quarantine car to remember. Because I did it in the beginning around May. And then here I am doing it again towards the end of June here. This is an Audi I will never forget. I did it back to back, pretty much this engine swap. I'll end showing you this. Look, this is the oil. Turn this around. This is the Wix oil filter. So 513 is when the oil was poured in and it left here, right? That's the day it left. So 513.20, it left here with 144 miles, 0.45, right? 144,045 miles. And then he came back with the engine kaboom at 144,240. Not too nice. Not too nice. He didn't get to drive it much at all. So, yeah, it sucks. But, you know, I like the Audi. I'm not going to say I don't. I'm just tired of working on it. I've worked on it back to back. It's a nice car. I really like the sticker. I like the exhaust. I like this body style. It's a nice little coupe. It's a stick shift, leather interior, carbon fiber in the trunk, a spoiler. It looks real good when the front end of this thing is all put back together. It looks nice. Whoever buys it, I hope they put a set of headlights and some nicer rims on it. And that's about it. Anyways, we'll make another video of it running nice and happy. We won't be able to rev it or drive it hard because I will respect the braking period on my initial test drive. And I would hope that the owner and whoever else drives it for the next 1,000 miles respects that braking period too. God bless y'all. Take care. Stay safe. See y'all in the next video. Peace.